He peers past the limelight, dark shapes in the shadows. An audience then, though he can see nothing of them, hushed, expectant. He's up first, with no compere to introduce him or to warm up the unseen crowd. A tricky slot. As soon as the lights had dipped, all attention would have been focused on the stage, waiting for him. He steps boldly forward. "Ladies and gentlemen," he begins, in his brightest showman style. "There are no ladies here," a gruff voice replies, and is met with a low rumble of laughter.
Low rumble.
That's... He flusters. Max isn't used to being heckled this early on in his act. He's got no ready reply, as he does for some of his more colourful humour, prepared ripostes to an audience's predictably shocked reaction. He screws up his eyes, but the stage lights are too bright, or the auditorium too dark for him to see who's spoken, to flip the heckle back, to neatly skewer the speaker. He'll have to wing it. "No gentlemen neither," another different wit drawls just as he draws breath. The laughter wider spread this time and a little higher pitched than before. His shoulders sag. He's been warned about working men's clubs up north, but he hadn't expected this. He'd played small festivals where mud-splattered audiences had been drinking strong ale or even stronger cider all day long and were only interested in his act because it was under canvas and it was pissing down outside. He'd played half the rough pubs from Kilburn to Essex, played to audiences of 2, one of whom was up on stage after him. But he'd never felt such a wave of hostility as was directed at him right now. Maybe it was the way he was dressed. He'd had some time to kill after his early evening arrival. The later service would have cut things a little too tight for his liking. As the train had jerked to a violent halt, he'd snapped awake, for a moment confused about where he was, scanning the dark platform for clues until he saw a sign looming eerily out of the twilight, and he quickly grabbed his things before the train could depart without him. So once the sombre fella had wielded an antique-looking punch on his ticket on the way out, he'd wandered around town, locating the venue first, so that he knew roughly how to get back there, and how long it would take. He was travelling light, a spare shirt, his on-stage shoes, currently replaced by a pair of comfortable trainers, a bottle of water, and a reporter's notepad for any ideas of new material or tweaks to old ones that came to mind. But though he was wearing jeans and the top of his shirt was casually undone, he still stood out from the dark mass of scruffy humanity that trudged the streets. Even the buildings were blackened. Years of burning the local coal had given them the same grimy cloak as those who huddled beneath. It was like something out of Dickens. But though the people looked weary, weighed down, oppressed, their reddened eyes had still flicked towards him, quickly taking in his thin jacket, his leather satchel, and it lingered. Fresh meat. He clutched his bag tighter, then forced himself to relax, to exude the confidence he hadn't really felt. He thought of ducking into one of the many pubs bathed in orange light. He'd had plenty enough time, but a step towards the nearest brought unfamiliar sounds and smells. And besides, he nearly never, drank before a gig. It wasn't professional. Right now, stood on stage under the unforgiving glare of the bright overhead lights, he wishes he'd taken that pint, or perhaps something a bit stronger. He pulls himself together. Time to take the upper hand. Time to hit them with his most outre material. Hit them hard, hit them fast. Let them heckle back, he'd be ready. So what if he was the outsider? He'd play to that role, he'd own it, and by God, he'd be bloody brilliant. Hadn't he wowed them at jongleurs? Hadn't Chortle named him one to watch? He launches into a skit on why UKIP were the only party to vote for in the next election. An argument, reductio ad absurdum, lampooning political beliefs of every colour, but of course, most of all, of UKIP's. Tumbleweeds. He'd had a lot of different reactions to this piece. He'd even had some people walk out, and he had a heckle ready for that as well. But never before, never had it been met by stony silence. Sweating under the lights. He wonders if he should have researched the political leanings of this former mining town, rather than just pigeonholing them as Labour. Feeling strangely detached, he watches himself heading for the full balls-out crescendo. UKIP's victory meal, roast baby with a side helping of dog turd, before a soft murmur from beyond the stage brings him back to his clammy body. It's the first reaction the ominous crowd has given, albeit a low-key one. No! Hear the man out, a calm, educated voice says into the pause. He's got a point. Max segues into an expletive-laden piece on the power of swear words. A ton of fucks. Not even bothering to wrap up his previous strand, throwing away the ending that's supposed to close the loop, because, no, he doesn't have a fucking point. It's comedy, satire, not some rational, cogent argument. And who the fuck do these people think they are? Who the fuck do they think he is? Unable to see them, he pictures the audience in his mind. A gaggle of hulking men, sitting in clouds of sweat, stale ale and even staler tobacco. He'd wondered, when he first sniffed the dank air, whether working men's clubs were somehow exempt from the smoking ban. But no, the smell is old. Generations of nicotine soaked into the, no doubt, yellowed ceiling, into the tatty chairs, into the faded stage curtains. He imagines one of them sitting slightly aloof, the owner of the educated voice, respected for some reason by the rest of the low-browed thugs. Maybe he's a union rep or something. Face red, cheeks blowing. He delivers the pièce de résistance, swear words as poetry. Motherfucking cunty arsewank! And he awaits their nervous, shocked laughter. A deeply soiled blanket of silence hangs over the auditorium. Is he dying? He wants nothing more in the entire world than to be able to see their reactions. See if they have any reactions. The wave he felt earlier, had that simply been his imagination? Are they then not hostile? But worse, far worse, indifferent. He curses his stupidity. Of course swearing won't work. This isn't America, where even a D-list swear word like pussy gets a response. Middle-aged women in twin sets rocking back in surprise. Swearing was probably invented in shitholes like this. He'd been misled by their reaction, or lack of it, into not thinking his act through. Time to bite the bullet. Time to go for the jugular. Time to interact with the audience. Hey, is there anyone on the lights? He asks, projecting to the back of the room. Can we have them up, so I can see who the fuck I'm talking to? The audience titters. Odd, isn't it? You can fill 5 minutes with every swear word known to man, but there's a difference between saying them and meaning them. Maybe he's getting a handle on this crowd after all. At least, that's what he thinks. before they flash into illumination before him. The microphone slips from his fingers, and with an amplified thud hits the stage. Inhuman eyes glare back at him. The floor writhes with what he imagines to be snakes, before he clocks that they are, in fact, tails. A dozen forked, unnaturally long tongues mock his own timid licking of his suddenly dry lips, and one nightmarish creature, oddly elegant in this feral mask, thin, cruel face crowned by a sharp widow's peak, jacket casually unbuttoned over a waistcoat so deep in colour as to be nearly black, though Max knows that it isn't, his eyes telling him it's blood red, darkened by layer upon layer. This one man, cloven foot, tapping on the roughly hewn wooden floor, winks at him, smiles in indulged amusement. He thinks back to his screaming arrival, to the sound he'd taken in his slumber to be that of tortured brakes, the sound that came before the half-forgotten impact of the twisted steel, of crumpled bodies flying through thick smoke, of a flame flickering, eager to finish the task of reducing all these personal possessions, carefully thought out wardrobes, gym-groomed bodies, to chaos, to char, and to ash. He thinks back to the face of that guard at the exit to the rail station, the one with the sunken eyes that glimmered like old pennies, the skeletal hand reaching out to punch his and all the rest of his carriage's red-edged tickets. His brain struggles for thought, and he dimly recalls a memory so distant it might not well be his. A Sunday school teacher, a fan of Dante, who claimed that each man's hell is tailored personally to his own peculiar sins. And as his clammy back comes up hard against the wall hidden by the black drapes, he finally thinks to wonder why this stage has no exit.